Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, no need to fear. Friendly neighborhood light skin is here. And in today's video, we are reacting to She Trusted Her Favorite Cousin CCTV capture. What he did next was pure evil. Ooh, that's gotta hurt. Being set up by your own cousin, your own blood? Or nah, that's like a different level of betrayal, man. I hate it for it. You know what I'm saying? With that being said, let's go and see what this video is talking about, bro.
2022, 1 a.m. A security camera mounted above the front entrance captured a chilling moment that would haunt investigators for years to come. A young man entered his apartment with another person, a 17-year-old girl. Another person, a 17-year-old girl. Another person.
God damn.
Captured a chilling moment that would haunt investigators for years to come.
What's going on with these? What's going on with this facial, bro? Why you got your lips plucked up like a bad bit? Yeah, bro. Something was definitely a little bit off about you. And I ain't gonna lie, this look right here, bro. You looking real hungry. And you again, chat. Remember, this is his cousin we're talking about right here. So I don't know. Y'all let me know. Let me try to think in the comments, man. Let me know something.
A young man entered his apartment with another person, a 17-year-old girl, his favorite cousin, the girl who trusted him completely. Later, the footage showed him backing his white sedan into the driveway, carefully, methodically, the trunk now facing away from the street, hidden from view. Minutes passed. Then, the car drove away into the darkness. When it returned, less than 10 minutes later, the trunk was empty. But the girl who had entered that house that night, she never left. Not through the front door, not through any door. And what the cameras didn't capture, what happened inside those walls during those crucial hours, would become the center of one of Detroit's most disturbing murder cases. A case where the truth was buried not only in a landfill, but beneath layers of lies from someone who was supposed to protect her. Because sometimes, the person you trust most is the one who means you the greatest harm. Sierra
Okay.
Milton woke up on the...
That's the same, bro. They say you keep your enemy. Well, that's the same. Y'all know the saying, bro. We not whatever.
Morning of January 5th, 2022, with a gnawing feeling in her gut. Her eldest daughter, Zion Foster, hadn't come home the night before. The 17-year-old's bed sat empty, untouched. For most mothers, this might trigger immediate panic. But Sierra knew her daughter's history. Zion was a high school senior at East Detroit High School, bright, spirited, and admittedly rebellious. Just months earlier, she'd celebrated her 17th birthday in November. Like many teenagers testing boundaries, she'd threatened to run away before. Twice the previous year, frustrated with her mother's rules, she'd actually done it. The first time, 16-year-old Zion fled to her grandmother's house. Convinced to return, she stayed only days before leaving again, prompting Sierra to call the police. But both incidents proved to be false alarms. The teenager was struggling. Her grandmother's recent cancer diagnosis weighed heavily on her. Independence called to her like a siren song. But this morning felt different. Zion had worked her serving shift at the Detroit Wing Company the night before. She'd come home. She'd asked permission to go out afterward. And here's the thing she'd been honest about, where she was going and who she'd be with. Her favorite cousin, Jalen. Sierra trusted him. She'd watched Zion leave with him at least twice a month for the past year. She'd greeted Jalen herself in the
This 2010 ass selfie, bro. This light skin ass pose, my bad. I just think to get that out real quick.
Driveway when he picked her daughter up. Sierra had agreed. She watched Zion walk out the door shortly before 11 p.m. That was the last time she saw her daughter alive. The text message came from Vertez Gonzalez, Zion's boyfriend and fellow high schooler. Had Sierra heard from Zion? Because he couldn't reach her anymore. The last message he'd received came at midnight. 3 simple letters that now haunt everyone involved. On my way. On my way. But Zion never made it home. Calls went straight to voicemail. Messages throughout the night sat undelivered, trapped in digital limbo. Finally, at 8 a.m., Vertez sent a message that captured his growing dread. Are you alive? Followed by, this is the worst thing ever. Sierra.
I feel like it's crazy. I feel like when normal people send that message that "Are you alive?" that's like it's supposed to be a joke. But the fact that in this case it was unfortunately not a joke, that one's gotta hurt a little bit more.
Immediately reached out to Jalen Brazier, If anyone knew where Zion was, it would be him. They were close, practically inseparable, or so she thought. Jalen's response stopped her cold. He hadn't seen Zion. In fact, he claimed he hadn't seen or spoken to his cousin in years. 3 years, to be exact. Sierra's mind reeled. How could that be possible when Jalen had been in her driveway just weeks ago? When she'd watched her daughter leave with him twice a month? When Zion specifically told her she was spending time with her favorite cousin? Jalen pressed her. How often had Zion claimed to be with him? Once or twice a month, Sierra confirmed. His response came laced with frustration. Zion's lies about him were sneaky as hell and not safe, he said. She must have been using him as cover, spending time with someone else who lived near his house. He even offered evidence. Zion shared her location with boyfriend Vertez, a fact born from his admitted insecurity about their relationship. That location data placed her across the street from Jalen's home at 11:24 p.m. on January 4th. Vertez, ever vigilant, had screenshot his girlfriend's location at that exact time, so Jalen's theory seemed plausible. Maybe Zion was seeing someone else on his street. Maybe she was using his name as an alibi. There was just one problem with this theory. It was a complete lie. East Point police weren't exactly rushing to help. Sierra's missing person report met bureaucratic indifference. Her daughter had a history of running away, they reminded her bluntly. The officer handling the case didn't mince words. I'm going to be honest with you. We're taking this as she's a runaway. Receiving little support from law enforcement, Sierra took matters into her own hands. Family and friends rallied. They posted flyers across Detroit. They held rallies. They spoke to anyone who would listen. The media picked up the story. We need your eyes, Sierra pleaded to cameras. The police need your help. Meanwhile, officers eventually made their way to Jalen Brazier's home. They found him there with his longtime girlfriend, Katrina Smith. The 23-year-old father of 2 young boys, ages 1 and 2, seemed cooperative. He invited officers inside to look around. His story remained consistent. He hadn't seen his cousin in nearly a year since May 2021, he claimed. It was Zion's mother and her boyfriend who seemed fixated on this idea that she'd been with him. He'd even offered to show Sierra his Ring camera footage to prove Zion was never there. When Sierra examined the footage, she noticed something. Gaps. Missing entries for the night of January 4th. Obviously deleted, she thought. But police found nothing suspicious in their search. No signs Zion had been there. They listened while Jalen explained his frustrations over being dragged into drama caused by a 17-year-old cousin he rarely saw anymore. She's known to be a runaway, he told officers, his voice rising with apparent exasperation. Like, she's run away 4 times. Every time she's at some dude's house. Her mom knows this. Her mom's just playing it a certain way, and it's making me so uncomfortable. The officers left, seemingly satisfied. But Sierra Milton knew better. She'd seen Jalen in her driveway. She'd hugged him. She knew he was lying. The question was why. Sometimes the simplest solution cracks a case wide open. If Zion's location data placed her across from Jalen's house, why not check the neighbor's doorbell cameras? The footage told a story Jalen desperately wanted to hide. At approximately 11:15 p.m. on January 4th, a white sedan, the car known to be driven by Jalen Brazier, pulled into his driveway. 2 individuals emerged, clearly visible walking into the house. 1 male, 1 female. Now, Jalen had driven his girlfriend Katrina to work just before 11 p.m. that night. She worked the midnight shift at a manufacturing job 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. The second individual entering the house at 11:15 couldn't have been Katrina. Phone location data confirmed what the camera revealed. The 2 people entering Jalen's home that night were Jalen Brazier and Zion Foster. The camera never showed Zion leaving, but at 1 a.m., that same camera captured something chilling. Jalen's car pulled out of the driveway, then backed in. The trunk now faced the backyard, hidden from view. After a few minutes, the car drove off. It returned less than 10 minutes later. Search warrants came swiftly. Inside the house, nothing. The car's contents were carefully itemized and examined, but there was no clear evidence of what happened to Zion. That is, until law enforcement brought in the canine units. The dogs indicated clearly at the trunk of Jalen's car. The unmistakable scent of death lingered there. On January 19th, accompanied by a friend who happened to be a lawyer, Jalen voluntarily sat down with detectives. The evidence against him had become overwhelming. It was time, his lawyer must have advised, to get ahead of the narrative. Jalen offered what he claimed was the truthful version of events from that night. Yes, he'd picked up Zion from her home. Yes, he'd brought her back to his place. He put his 2 young children to bed, then joined Zion downstairs in the living room. They talked about normal teenage things, her improving relationship with her mother, her boyfriend, plans for prom, her job, dreams of getting her own apartment. They used some recreational substances together, he said. Then Zion got sleepy. Her head tilted back as she appeared to nap while sitting upright on the couch. He went into the other room to pour himself a drink. When he returned 15 to 20 minutes later, something was wrong. Her pulse was faint.
It takes 15-20 minutes to get a drink? It takes that long to get a drink? I've never heard of something like that.
He claimed. Then her heartbeat became non-existent. His young cousin had simply died on his couch, just like that. Instead of calling 911, Jalen said he panicked, not knowing
this doesn't even sound believable in the slightest.
how she died. He feared it would appear as though he'd killed her, so he made a choice that would haunt this case. I put her in my trunk, he told detectives, his voice steady and matter-of-fact, and I took her to Highland Park and put her inside of a trash receptacle, and I left. Detectives pressed him. How did he know Zion was actually dead? According to his story, the 17-year-old had inexplicably and abruptly stopped breathing.
Exactly. We know you're full of shit. We know you're lying. You cap it.
She truly gone. She wasn't breathing, Jalen insisted. Her heartbeat was like I couldn't read a heartbeat, couldn't feel a heartbeat or anything, so I would say she was dead, definitely. The timeline matched disturbingly well with other evidence. Jalen claimed Zion had been at his home for roughly 2 hours before she died, placing her time of death just past 1 a.m. Cell phone records showed her device dropped off the network at exactly 1 a.m., the same moment she stopped responding to messages from Vertez. Jalen also claimed he hadn't deleted any data from his phone since that night, but investigators discovered he'd performed a full factory reset just 2 days later, effectively wiping everything from his device. Still,
Yeah, bro, we know you.
Of his phone could be pieced together through cell tower data. This placed Jalen at the dumpsters in Highland Park at 1 a.m. He led detectives to the location where he claimed to have left Zion's body weeks before. There was no longer any sign of her there. The trash had long since been collected and compacted. Sierra Milton's world shattered when she learned what her nephew had done. He said that my baby just died, she recounted, her voice breaking, and then that he threw her in a dumpster, like she was trash. When Jalen sat down for a follow-up interview the next day, January 20th, his story began to change. Now he claimed they'd taken hallucinogens that night. The powerful substances must have caused her heart to stop, he suggested. This explanation was about as medically plausible as his previous assertion, which is to say, not at all. The detective saw an opening. Perhaps Jalen would use the drugs as an excuse for his actions, for whatever steps he took to end his younger cousin's life. Did you have like a freaking momentary didn't know what you were doing moment? The detective pressed. The problem with those substances is when you're on them you don't know what you're doing. Did you do something? But Jalen wouldn't bite. I was completely comfortable, he insisted. The detective failed to elicit a confession. Without this admission and without locating Zion's body, there wasn't enough evidence to proceed with a murder indictment. Jalen was placed under arrest anyway for one count of lying to police. His false statements had actively deceived investigators about Zion's whereabouts, her health and safety, and his interaction with her. It wasn't murder, but it was something. The search for Zion Foster became one of the most extraordinary efforts in Detroit law enforcement history. Garbage collection trucks working in Highland Park were tracked to specified areas in local landfills. An estimated 8-week project was launched to sort through literally mountains of waste from all over the Detroit area, compiled over several weeks. Dozens of volunteers, mostly wearing masks and hazmat suits, assisted by heavy machinery, picked through layer after layer of the landfill, systematically, methodically, looking for any sign of the 17-year-old girl someone had thrown away. We're doing what's right for the right reasons, officials announced. And we're going to do everything we possibly can to bring some degree of closure. Will never be complete closure, but some degree of closure and justice to this family. Meanwhile, Jalen Brazier faced up to 4 years in prison for lying to police.
Damn, they gave him the body? They did him with the body in jail? Yeah, they gave that boy to Michael Jordan? Shit.
In prison for lying to police. The Detroit Police Department, assisted by the FBI, continued seeking a warrant for murder. At his sentencing for the lying charge, Jalen pled his case. 1. I did turn myself in. Yes, I lied. But I was not in the right state of mind. There was no way for me to prepare for a situation like that. I was scared. I don't know exactly how she passed, what caused her to pass. I just know 1 minute she was cool, she was fine. She laid back for a minute. Next thing I know, she was dead. The judge wasn't having it. You think she dies and then you dispose of her body? Just
Oh
like
God,
that?
like exactly like it's this is your cousin, mind you. You don't call police, you don't call anybody for help. You just she's dead. I guess we gotta you know what I'm saying, get her go. No, hell no.
That was your choice? Jalen tried to explain his panic, his confusion, his fear, but the judge cut him off. Stop it. I won't have any conversation in this courtroom. Jalen Brazier was sentenced to 23 months in prison. While incarcerated, Jalen's phone calls home to girlfriend Katrina and other family members were monitored closely. He occasionally used another inmate's calling code in a failed attempt to keep conversations private. He also possessed a prohibited cell phone, which he used to exchange thousands of messages with Katrina. Repeatedly, in his calls, Jalen would ask if anything major had happened. This seemed to be poorly concealed code. Was he asking whether the massive landfill search had found anything? Or anyone? The most logical and possible one right now, he told Katrina in one recorded call, is that there's nothing major. Nothing major is new. And due to that, there's a last effort to put together any types of anything. His relief was palpable. Keep your head up. Don't say nothing. Think about that for a moment. If Jalen's story was truthful, if Zion had died abruptly from some unknown and nonviolent cause, then there would be every reason for him to want her found. Finding Zion would exonerate him. The quicker the better. Wishing for her discovery should also be the sentiment of a loving cousin who cared about.
I mean, I don't know how does this get him off the hook though? If like they technically were, I mean, because like on one hand, it sounds like if his story, if we're in this imaginary world, we're gonna say his what he's saying is true, right? If it's true, and they were doing substances together, and she KO'd, would he still be in trouble though for dumping the body and hiding it? Like, there's no legal liability there for him, or am I tripping? Y'all let me know if I'm tripping in the comments.
His family's peace of mind. Instead, over and over again, he expressed relief that no major developments had occurred in the search. As the final days of the landfill project approached, he began referring to it as a search for COVID. It was supposed to stop the COVID thing, he told Katrina cryptically, and it's not searching for COVID, so usually there's an update before that, but actually nothing. So don't worry about nothing. Jalen served just over 9 months before being granted early release through a special 90-day incarceration program, a boot camp designed like a military program where inmates convicted of certain crimes can better themselves and earn early release. It had been nearly a year. Zion had not been found. An indictment for murder had not been sought, and now the prime suspect walked free, returning to his home and his family. Sierra Milton's anguished question echoed through the community. Why is this man free? What can I admit to this and still be let free? Jalen Brazier's freedom was short-lived. On June 13, 2023, after a year-and-a-half investigation, the Detroit Police Department was finally granted a warrant for arrest. The 24-year-old would face charges of second-degree murder as well as tampering with evidence.
Damn.
Upon his arrest, 2 additional cell phones were seized. Despite the factory reset Jalen had performed on his device, investigators made a breakthrough. His search history had been held in cloud storage. On January 7th, 3 days after dumping his cousin's body in a dumpster, Jalen had performed a series of revealing Google searches. Are garbage trucks also crushers? What is the force of the machinery? How do police get your phone history? How do you know if police are watching you? But that wasn't all. In the months before the incident, Jalen had performed numerous disturbingly suggestive searches for adult content involving taboo family dynamics. Experts retrieved the video results of the
I mean, I did say, I mean, with a guy that looks like this, bro, I mean, you obviously look pretty odd. You look like a very odd individual. So, I mean, I, I guess I'm not too shocked, too surprised by this.
searches. Some were reportedly very violent as well as disturbing in nature. The digital evidence painted a dark picture of a man who'd been fixating on his teenage cousin, then scrambling to cover his tracks when something went horribly wrong. As the case approached trial, a preliminary hearing offered insight into the defense strategy. Vertez Gonzalez testified that he believed his girlfriend was taking regular medication for epilepsy. Zion had told him she suffered seizures, he said, and without her medication they became more frequent and severe. He'd even witnessed what he thought might have been a seizure Zion, becoming momentarily faint, slouching forward before regaining her composure after just a few seconds. The defense had found their angle. Perhaps Zion's medical condition led to her death suddenly in Jalen's living room. Maybe she'd had a seizure. There was just one problem with this theory. Sierra Milton, whose youngest child was in fact diagnosed with epilepsy, testified that Zion had never suffered a seizure. Hundreds of pages of medical records covering years of treatment supported Sierra's assertion. Nonetheless, Jalen Brazier's version of events was now being framed in this new light for the jury. The trial lasted 2 full weeks in May 2024. Jalen chose not to testify. The state called 32 witnesses. The defense called none. Prosecutors revealed evidence that shocked even seasoned courtroom observers. Zion's old cell phone safe at home because she'd gotten a new one contained months of correspondence between her and her favorite cousin. Over 4,000 distinct texts were retrieved. The messages Jalen sent ranged from subtle and unsettling to highly inappropriate. At times, they were romantic in nature. He routinely invited her to his home while his girlfriend was away. He offered to put her up in his basement if she ran away. He advised her on how to evade police if she disappeared again. Wayne County Assistant Prosecutor Ryan Elsey described the texts as pervasive, at times complimentary of her intelligence and looks, at other times probing in an immature way. Jalen suggested to Zion that other people thought they were a couple. He claimed Katrina was jealous of her. He bragged about how easily he could be with women. At one point, he called himself a god. Prosecutor Elsey concluded by telling the jury that the 23-year-old had been systematically manipulating his younger cousin for years, that he had fantasies about her, and that on January 4th, he acted on his impulses. This was the twisted motive that led to her death. Jurors heard about how Jalen learned that Katrina was pregnant with their third child on the day he brought Zion to his house. Messages between the couple showed how he'd lied to her about what he was doing after dropping her off at work. That night, Katrina felt ill, nausea, hot spells. She'd been to the emergency room earlier that day. Hours later at work, the symptoms resumed. She messaged repeatedly that she felt too sick to stay, asking him to pick her up. At 1 a.m., I think I need to come home. At 1:26, I don't feel good. Minutes later, my stomach hurts. I feel sick and keep getting hot and cold. Jalen's response, "You can make it, baby." He finally picked her up at nearly 3 a.m.
You can make it, baby. Oh my god, lock this brother up, man. Put him behind bars with the Booty Warriors.
When he did, she noticed something. A deep scratch across his collarbone, deep enough to draw blood. He told her the cat had scratched him. Odd, Katrina thought. The cat had never scratched that deep before. The case against Jalen was largely circumstantial, though compelling. A forensic anthropologist who reviewed Zion's medical history determined that the only condition she suffered that could possibly have led to her death was asthma. But an asthma attack would present as the exact opposite of what Jalen described. Instead of quietly passing out with a faint heartbeat, Zion would have been struggling to breathe. It would have been very clear she was in distress. The prosecution's closing argument cut through the defense's theories like a knife. He brought her to his house late at night on January 4th, 2022, behind the back of his pregnant girlfriend, who was at work at the time, and she leaves that house in the trunk of his car on a night where he has an unexplained gash on his collarbone. What do you think happened inside that house that night? She died of COVID? She died of a seizure? There's a claim that he did what he did because he was afraid of getting caught for illegal substances. Afraid of getting busted for drugs? You ever heard of somebody getting rid of a body to avoid a parking ticket? Sierra Milton and the rest of Zion's family waited as the jury went into deliberations. They returned in only 30 minutes. As to count 1, how do you find guilty? As to count 2, how do you find guilty? Jalen Brazier maintained his innocence at his sentencing hearing. Her death was not in any way violent. She wasn't hurt at all, he insisted, still clinging to his story. Before announcing his decision, Judge Donald Knapp outlined the convict's failure to accept responsibility for the murder, for disposing of Zion's body,
Yeah,
for
exactly.
lying to police.
Even I don't believe him at all. I don't believe him one bit. I think he killed her. But even if we were gonna entertain that angle, bro, she passed away and you still tried to dump her body. Like, you're still like responsible some way, somehow. And again, if this is supposed to be your cousin and you see she's passing or dying, maybe the drug argument, whatever, but like to dump her in a dumpster, that's insane, bro.
for causing delays in the investigation, for leaving his 2 young children alone in the house while he disposed of evidence, for manipulating and lying to family. It is unlikely, Judge Knapp concluded, that he will ever be rehabilitated. Jalen Brazier was sentenced to 30 to 90 years in prison for the murder and another 5 to 10 years for tampering with evidence. These terms would be served consecutively. Sierra Milton's body trembled as the sentence was read. When it was read, it was just so matter-of-fact. I'm so happy they saw she was loved. She is loved. She was fought for. And this is the result. This is justice. Then she addressed Jalen directly. You thought you were smart. You tried to be slick. The people saw you for what you are. And I hope you never get out. Zion Foster's body has never been recovered. Over 70 volunteers and law enforcement officials searched the landfill for nearly 6 months before finally admitting defeat. Somewhere in that massive expanse of waste and refuse, a 17-year-old girl with her whole life ahead of her remains lost. As of this writing, Jalen Brazier remains at an intake facility in Wayne County, awaiting his placement in a general population prison. He'll be eligible for parole when he's in his 50s.
Damn.
Given the consecutive nature of his sentences and Judge Knapp's assessment of his rehabilitation prospects, he may never see freedom again. This case serves as a chilling reminder that danger doesn't always come from strangers lurking in shadows. Sometimes it...
Oh God, like, it's unfortunate, man. I hate it for them. I hate that this young woman had to lose her life to her weird minded cousin. Uh, Damn, man. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments, man. And, I'll go ahead and catch y'all boys at the next one. Peace.